Margaret Kuhlman of Soul Astrology. This new moon is in Sagittarius and is making a square connection, that red line, to Mars and Neptune in Pisces. So whereas the whole month has got this lovely Sagittarian, let's go for it, a new adventure feel to it, it's constantly being brought back to a sense of, an awareness of, the general flavour of the time on an emotional level. Pisces is the sea of human emotion, and Mars represents the solar plexus in the body. Neptune dissolves the boundaries. So all of us are likely to be feeling much more sensitive to the emotions of the rest of the world, and particularly, of course, the emotions of those near to us, those we care about, those we love. There's a dissolving of all boundaries. We're liable to be experiencing other people's experience as though it were our own. So there's a need for vigilance to notice what emotions arise and whether they actually did have any personal trigger, or whether they just wafted in from somewhere else. People who are emotionally sensitive anyway will have much more of this than others, but we're all susceptible to it. The emphasis on Sagittarius is the call to uplift the feelings, so that whatever actually does go through can do so against this backdrop of positivity. The purpose of Sagittarius is to open our minds, open our hearts to bright possibilities, opening us to the degree that we can accept and allow for all things to be. Sagittarius goes forward with interest, to discover, wanting to know more, so it doesn't reject what it finds. A time for experiencing our own personal boundaries on acceptance, what we put barriers up against, noticing that we have done that, and what a loss it always is. And the attitude is constantly upgoing. If you find yourself feeling into the hardships and sufferings of other people, other parts of the world, or people you know who are having to deal with deep difficulties or change, if you find yourself feeling any of their feelings, steady yourself, come back to yourself. Remember how we are all held in love, and when you feel steady and find that loving place in yourself, then let that flow out from you. The tendency that we all have is to be reactive, to react to what comes in with a bit more of the same. Someone's suffering, so we suffer for their suffering and just increase it, which isn't helpful. And happening on a global scale, it's like it could be like a downward spiral. So it's very important, if you can, to lift the space within and around you into the positive. Jupiter, it's been in Sagittarius since last new moon, and it will continue through Sagittarius until the end of 2019. We are being encouraged to do this expansion and uplift as much as we can. Mercury in the chart, it has been retrograde, but at the new moon it starts to go forwards again, just pulling out of Scorpio and then going through Sagittarius itself. From starting off with an understanding of what these deep emotions might be, we move towards the communication of the more positive views. From where it sits in the new moon chart, It's trining Chiron, and both of them are trining the North Node, exactly all 27 degrees of water signs. Our awareness and honesty about the deeper layers of our feeling and the feelings in the world is exactly what we should be focusing on. Learning how to care for ourselves and each other, the North Node now in Cancer. With the South Node in Capricorn, the intention is not that we should pour ourselves out emotionally, but that we stay grounded and practical and use our skills to help care for others. The quincunx from Mercury to Uranus indicates that we are all going to have our own opinions about this, about all of it and any of it. That we are all likely to feel, yes, I want to do it my way, or keep myself clear of it. And because Uranus is square to the nodes, we know that pulling back to re-establish our own centre is something that happens from time to time, necessary, but always with a view to going back on to the helpfulness. It's only from a good centred position that we are really useful to other people. It's a sort of vacillation which is necessary and supportive to the whole thing. Vacillating into your own space to regroup and then going back out to be helpful. It's good to remember, though, that everybody is not helped by the same thing. Everybody doesn't find the same joke funny. So there is a great need for sensitivity. And with such sensitivity about, that square is indicating we are likely to make mistakes and get it wrong. So very much care needed about not making assumptions and actually finding out what's needed before we put our spoke in. By the full moon chart, Venus has moved to the middle of Scorpio and is making a trine to Neptune, while Mercury has moved forward through Sagittarius, caught up with Jupiter, and is making the square to Neptune itself. So the difficulty of that misunderstandings and so on is still there, but the sensitivity is such that love is likely to mediate in difficult communications. The love is there, sensitivity in relationship, and Neptune sextiling Saturn is suggesting that the helpfulness really will be coming through. Mars has moved on and is near Chiron itself, making that trine aspect to the North Node. The energy, the desire for action, is lining up with the need for that action. Potentially an extremely healing 2 weeks following the full moon. Sun in Capricorn, just having passed its moment of furthest south at the winter solstice, really pointing up our need for groundedness, for regrouping inwardly in our own life and our own being, and trining the Uranus, the statement of our individuality, and holding the moon at the beginning of Cancer there, holding it steady so that our emotions are not overwhelming. This whole month has a lot to do with sensitivity, a lot to do with trusting our own inner connection with the spirit, trusting that love really does hold it all, and at the same time being open to experiment, giving ourselves freedom to enjoy, sharing the fun of things, being interested in the new. And something I always feel around Sagittarius, it's not pinning ourselves down into something just yet, but being sure we tried it all out. Enjoy yourself this month, sensitively. Oh, what joy in dancing leaves and fluttering birds, in rushing water and brilliant flames, in loving hugs and furry friends and delicate flowers unfolding. Poised in this moment with fluttering heart, alive in touch, responsive to light. Face the unknown, leap into space. Whatever life asks, be ready.